Some disappearances happen in a heartbeat. Others leave behind fear, confusion, and unanswered questions. But the most terrifying ones are those where a person simply vanishes. No signs, no struggle, no explanation, leaving their family trapped in a nightmare that never truly ends. This is the story of one such disappearance. A case so unsettling, so deeply mysterious, that it challenges everything we believe about how people go missing. Every detail raises new questions. Every lead fades into darkness. And the closer you get to the truth, the more disturbing it becomes. If you're sensitive to real-life tragedy, you may want to stop here. The Bilehart family of Colorado, like many families in the early 20th century, had always feared the loss of a child. Snowdrop and William Bilehart's youngest son, Alfred, was born in 1933, at a time when infant mortality was still high. Although medical advances had improved survival rates for babies, the fear of losing a child never completely left families like the Bileharts. With each birth, there was always the silent worry that they might not survive their early years. The Bileharts, however, had reason to be grateful. By 1938, they had successfully raised 13 children, and despite the challenges of life, Alfred was healthy. Alfred's birth had been a joyful occasion, and his family was thankful that they had escaped the tragic losses that so many others in the country had suffered. But despite the medical advancements, the Bileharts never stopped worrying about the fragility of life. They cherished each of their children, appreciating their health and well-being, but a sense of dread remained. In 1938, with their family growing, Snowdrop and William decided to take their 13 children on a camping trip in the remote Rocky Mountains National Park. It was a rare opportunity for the family to bond in a peaceful setting, far from the distractions and challenges of daily life. The plan was simple. They would spend the 4th of July camping, enjoying the beauty of the mountains and relishing the time together. The area was ideal for a family gathering, away from the noise of civilization, surrounded by trees, rivers, and open air. By all accounts, it was the perfect place to relax. The morning of July 3rd, 1938, dawned crisp and clear. The family of 13 set off for a morning walk along the roaring and fall rivers, which wound through the mountains near their campsite. They had set up camp near the LA Lake trailhead, a relatively short distance from the water. William and Snowdrop were excited to enjoy a day of walking with their children, leaving behind the stress of everyday life. As they walked, the family members formed a long line, with Alfred, just 4 years old, happily walking among his siblings. The walk was a simple pleasure, and as the family made their way along the trail, the children chatted excitedly, enjoying the natural beauty surrounding them. Alfred, a lively boy, was happily walking, laughing with his siblings. It was supposed to be an ordinary day, a day of bonding and connection. But in a split second, everything changed. Alfred was gone. One moment, he was there, and the next, nothing. His parents called for him, but there was no answer. At first, it seemed like a simple mistake. Maybe Alfred had wandered ahead. But as they looked for him, the realization hit them hard. Alfred had vanished. No one had seen where he had gone, and the family quickly spread out to search for him. Hours passed as the family searched the surrounding area. They called his name repeatedly, retracing their steps and looking under every rock and tree for any sign of their young child. But nothing. No footprints. No signs of a struggle. It was as if he had just disappeared into thin air. They soon realized that Alfred wasn't just lost. He was gone. The area wasn't that large, and there was no way he could have just vanished like that. What followed was a desperate, frantic search. The family split up, hoping to find even the smallest clue, but there was no trace of Alfred. As the day passed, the family's fears deepened. They started wondering if something far worse had happened. Could a wild animal have taken him? Perhaps a bear had attacked and dragged him away. The thoughts were terrifying, but they seemed possible. As the hours stretched into the evening, the parents' worst nightmares seemed more and more likely. The family knew they had to do everything they could to find Alfred. But as night approached with no answers, William and Snowdrop made the difficult decision to call on the authorities. They contacted local rescue teams, and the Colorado Civilian Conservation Corps arrived to help. Bloodhounds were brought in to track Alfred's scent, and the dogs were able to pick up a trail, leading the rescue team up the river for 1.5 miles. But just as they were closing in on what they thought was the location, the scent disappeared. The trail had vanished, and there was no indication of where Alfred had gone. Days turned into weeks, and still, there was no sign of Alfred. The authorities and rescue workers worked tirelessly, trying every possible method to locate Alfred. The Bileharts refused to give up hope. They had to believe their son was still alive, but every day that passed without news made it harder to stay hopeful. Rescue workers even began draining the river, searching the riverbed for any evidence that Alfred had fallen in and drowned. Beaver dams were blown up in an attempt to lower the water levels so they could see if Alfred's body was trapped in one of the ponds. Despite these efforts, nothing turned up. There was no trace of Alfred, no sign of what had happened to him. It seemed as though he had vanished from the earth. Then, on July 8th, something strange happened. The family received 2 separate reports of sightings of Alfred. The first came from a couple who had been driving in northeastern Colorado. They claimed to have seen a small child walking along the highway with a man. Although the authorities weren't sure it was Alfred, they followed up on the lead. But after further investigation, it led nowhere. The second sighting was even more unusual. A couple hiking in the mountains reported seeing a small child who resembled Alfred, high on a rock outcrop called Devil's Nest. The authorities investigated this lead as well, but it soon became clear that no child of Alfred's age could have made such a treacherous climb alone. The search team concluded that the sightings were likely cases of mistaken identity, and they moved on. Weeks passed, and with no new leads, the search began to wind down. The family had no choice but to accept that they might never know what happened to their son. But just when the Bileharts were starting to lose hope, something unexpected happened. On November 28, 1938, they received a letter. The letter was from someone claiming to have Alfred. They demanded $500 in exchange for the child's safe return. The Bileharts, shaken but hopeful, contacted the authorities immediately. Could it be possible that Alfred had been kidnapped? The family believed that he might still be alive. But just as quickly as their hope was reignited, it was dashed. By November 30th, the police had traced the ransom note to a hoax. There had been no kidnapping. Alfred had not been taken. The family's hopes were once again crushed. The case was closed, and the disappearance of Alfred Bilehart remained a mystery. The family never found out what happened to Alfred. The case remains one of the most baffling disappearances in the Rocky Mountains. Despite the efforts of the authorities and rescue teams, there were no answers. And while the family continued to live with the haunting uncertainty, they could never fully understand what had happened that fateful day.